Hello there everyone, Jonah Vale here again, and I am back to streaming Albion Online in preparation for their massively awaited Queen update. A very common question I continue to get while streaming is my thoughts on the Queen update itself. I figured this would be a good opportunity to create a video showcasing my thoughts on the subject. With the Queen update comes many changes to the game. Drastic changes, you may even call it a soft wipe. But before we dive into that, I want to give a small background on my personal experience with Albion. I have played the game through essentially every iteration other than a single beta and have seen its rise and falls. It was the first game I ever streamed and definitely the first game I built a community on. I'm extremely passionate about it, and I'm biased in the fact that I mostly enjoy small-scale PvP in Albion. Not because it's the only type of PvP I'm interested in, but because I feel it's the only PvP Albion does moderately well. That being said, what are the big changes coming with the Queen update? The first and foremost is an entire map rework. Their idea behind the map rework is to scatter the high-valued zones in a way that will disperse the content and make it so the larger groups won't be able to take it all, and the smaller groups can fight over various areas that are less contested. While I agree with their intentions, the issue here is they are assuming what people will do. At the end of the day, Albion has shown us that people will always take the path of least resistance, and some will just go out of their way to make people upset. There's nothing wrong with that in a sandbox game, however, Albion does very little to deter people from allying as many people as possible. Through its many iterations, Albion has gone from more of a small-scale game to a very Zerg-heavy game, and with its horrible performance in these types of fights, I have to ask myself, why is this the combat of choice the devs have decided to focus on? My first assumption would be they see most people are within alliances, and thusly, they think the majority of the player base prefers this type of gameplay. What I think they fail to realize is many guilds join alliances simply out of necessity, not want. They are pigeonholed in this decision, and I would argue many would prefer to stand on their own as opposed to being forced into an alliance. This again is aligning with their mentality of catering the game to a different playstyle. Many 5-man GVG teams complained, and the replacement for those 5v5s will be the new Crystal League. To enter the Crystal League, you will need a Crystal League token. You don't need to be in the same guild as the people on your team, and you don't even need a territory to participate. The time zones for the CGVGs are highly debated currently, but as you level up in the Crystal League, it appears you can only fight those at the same level, and on top of this, the fights will happen very infrequently. Without getting into specifics, since I don't want to misquote anything, what we can say without a shadow of a doubt is that 5v5 content has been drastically reduced. This again ties into the total game direction shift that SBI has chosen to go with. And let me reinforce this. The type of fights that Albion does best are small scale up to 20v20. Beyond that, it gets messy, and the performance suffers. Will this be a better direction for the game in the long run? Time will certainly tell. On the PvE side of things, there's going to be a change to gathering as well. Nodes have had their respawn times reduced, but the amount of them is much smaller, to the point that T7 to T8 are going to have around 2 hits on them. Since I don't gather, I have to put myself in their shoes. From their perspective, at least they won't be sitting on a node while watching Netflix all day, but it also means they need to put in much more work to gain the same result as before. Another important note is that it will be more difficult for gankers to catch gatherers on the nodes themselves, since less time will be spent on them. There are also resource dungeons coming after Queen, but I wonder how the gatherers will feel about this current change. While there are other numerous changes coming with Queen, the final and main one I was most excited for that I'll talk about in this video are hideouts. With the map rework, town plots are gone and more or less being replaced with hideouts. Hideouts can be placed on the map by a guild with a limit of 1 per tile, and I assume a total max amount on the map. The hideouts can be leveled to expand their size and the amount of plots they can have for various crafting stations. Guilds can also join the Crystal League from their hideouts, as well as have access to all the other amenities that towns used to give. The one thing they will not have is farms, and they will have a food upkeep cost so that transporting food will be involved in their maintenance. There's also a tax system where the hideout owners can pay a silver amount to the owner of the territory in the zone. The system does not bind those owners into not attacking, it's merely facilitating a tax system. Now you're probably wondering to yourself, how are hideouts sieged? The answer is they will go live twice a day for a period of time, and can be bashed on by enemies outside who have a territory in the zone. They're going to be hit with siege hammers. It will take a decent chunk of them, but if they get it to 0, the hideout will lose a shield, much like the town plot system that it's replacing. These shields do regenerate. The rate I'm not sure of, but once all the shields are down, the hideout is destroyed. But here's the kicker. The loot that was inside the hideout, instead of being lost, is eventually teleported to the losing player's banks. I personally have huge issues with the system because often the situation is going to come up where people simply won't bother to defend their hideout just for a free loot transport, and will pop up another hideout in a different location. I can see guilds having multiple hideouts and transporting loot between them when shields get low as well. These are the main changes coming with Queen, and while I do truly hope it works out for SBI, there's a solid chance all of these changes will turn the game into something that a lot of small-scale players, myself included, are not interested in. When you search Albion Online content, whether it be on Twitch or YouTube, 95% is small-scale or solo content. People truly do not enjoy watching ZVZ, and I feel most participate simply because they're told to, or just to talk smack to their opponents. I can't help but wonder why SBI does not add more small-scale content, or at least not alienate the playstyle. But with Queen, they're going full bore on Zerg vs Zerg content. Caveat of this entire update is maybe the new map rework knocks it out of the park, and small guilds end up being left alone and fighting each other while the Zergs fight each other. They are also introducing a smart cluster system, which will limit the amount of people an alliance can get into a tile at a time, while they have a buffer outside of the tile and then slowly are allowed to come in. I would comment on it more, but my info on the system is limited, and again, it's truly a mechanic I don't really care a lot about. In closing, I will always say the way Albion should go is to generate organic small-scale content and put mechanics in that discourage zerging. Examples being the more people that assist on a kill, the higher the trash rate, tightening up abilities and causing them to require more skill to use, or even removing the anti-zerg buff, which in the end actually ends up helping zergs. Regardless of my bias though, I do feel this update is going to make or break Albion. I hope for its success, but I also hope they begin to cater to other playstyles in the ZVZ mentality. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to smash that subscribe button like Jenna Jameson, as I will be doing weekly to bi-weekly videos on this channel going forward, covering a broad range of games, mostly focused on MMORPGs. There will also be an Albion Online Silver giveaway announced this week, so make sure to stay tuned for that.